There's a historian from Columbia University, Stephanie McCurry, who says that the current split in American society, this is a piece by Brad Reed and Raw Story, that the current split in American society mirrors the split over the legalization of slavery that occurred in the mid-19th century. She says this whole thing, and what's so weird is that, you know, we're not having a crisis like the Civil War. I mean, you know, this is to a large extent, obviously there are divisions in our society and there are inconsistencies and inequalities and, you know, a lot of stuff going on that's wrong. For example, all the people in prison, you know, people of color being killed by police, et cetera, et cetera. But that's not what the split is about, right? The split is that white people, particularly white men, feel, quote, cultural alienation. And when they measure that cultural alienation, that feeling that I'm under attack, my country's under attack, those people are coming to take my whatever, you know, my home, my job, my wife, my kids, my what, you know, fill in the blanks. When you measure that, you find that that feeling of alienation has actually increased since Donald Trump became president. Now, why would that be? Because he's feeding it. Because this is what he has to sell. Him and Fox News and right-wing hate radio. Oh my God, look out, they're coming to get you. Even if they have to lie to do it. Politico has a piece up by Edward Isaac Dovers titled House Republicans Distort and Dissemble in Slashing TV Ads. These are words that they use instead of the word lie. But what they're talking about are lies. It's just that simple. This is a super PAC that is run by Paul Ryan that is funded by, among others, the Koch brothers. Remember, they famously gave him $500,000 the day after he passed the tax cut? They get billions. Ryan gets $500,000, and boom, these ads start showing up. In one spot, this is quoting from the article, in one spot, a former CIA operative is accused of harboring terrorist sympathies. In another, military vets are said to be anti-American. Yeah, you know, the world is upside down. Democratic House candidate Jason Crow received a Bronze Star for heroism in Iraq. He was Lawyer of the Year for his veterans advocacy. So this guy's a veteran, a wounded and decorated veteran who got the Lawyer of the Year award from his state for his work, his law work after he came back from Iraq on behalf of veterans. And Paul Ryan's super PAC is running ads saying that he has neglected Colorado's veterans. Right. Democrat Abigail Spanberger, who is running against Dave Bratt. This is an amazing story. This is an absolutely amazing story. Dave, let me find it here. Yeah, Virginia Democrat Abigail Spanberger spent nearly a decade fighting terrorists as an undercover CIA officer. And Republicans are running ads right now saying that she harbors terrorist sympathies. Why? Because for 2 years she taught Muslims English as a second language. Now, while she was doing that, and thereafter officially, she was working for the CIA. She was spying on these people, and she's running now as a Democrat, right? I mean, you know, talk about military cred, and the Republicans are saying, well, she taught those Muslims. We can't have that. There's another one. Ohio Democrat Afteb Purval, for instance, accuses the Indian-Tibetan first-generation American. These are the attack ads. Accuses him of aiding his former employer in making millions by helping Libyans reduce payments owed to American families killed by Libyan terrorism. It's because he worked for a law firm where he was doing antitrust litigation. Had nothing to do with Libyans or anything else. And He joined the firm after they did this work for the Libyans, and not mentioned in the ad was the fact that former President George W. Bush backed the settlement negotiation with Libya that his firm worked on. And the Steve Chabot, the guy who he's running against, was fine with it when he was in the House of Representatives. Well, he still is, when it was approved by the House. But the super PAC says that these ads, which tell lies about a Democrat, are actually increasing the poll numbers for the Republicans. Time after time after time, we're seeing this. Number one. Number two, then I get this press release yesterday. I'm on the right-wing press release list as well as the left wing, and this is one that's from FreedomWorks. This is the group that the Kochs funded years ago, and I believe still are. FreedomWorks for America announces $100,000 independent expenditure in October to support vulnerable candidates. You know, the news media is all sitting around going, gee, look at this, this Republican, that Republican. They'll take race by race. They'll go, all of a sudden they're tightening up. What could be happening? Is it because the voters are getting upset? No, it's because the Koch brothers are pouring their $300 million into the campaign. Representative Dave Bratt is getting money from FreedomWorks. Ted Budd, Republican in North Carolina, getting money from FreedomWorks. Peter Roskam, Republican in Illinois' 6th District, getting money from the Koch brothers. Mark Harris, Republican in North Carolina's 9th District, getting money for the Koch brothers. The Koch brothers, by the way, live in New York and Nebraska. Denver Riggleman, Republican candidate for Virginia's 5th District. This is what they're bragging about, right? Literally, I got a press release. So what's the Republican strategy going into the midterm elections, into the congressional elections here? Angry mob. Matt Visor and Robert Costa writing in the Washington Post. When thousands of furious, screaming protesters marched toward the Capitol over the weekend. Okay, you and I saw this and we saw, oh, cool, activism. Quote, Republican staffers peered out at the scene from the windows above. They were not alarmed, but elated. Republicans have cast the Trump resistance movement as, quote, an angry mob that threatens the country's order. They note that Trump and the Republicans who control Congress and the White House have massive financial and media infrastructure behind them, and they're casting themselves as defenders at the barricades. Dave Bratt, once again, I mentioned him. You know, they're running lying ads against his opponent. He's running against the liberal mob. GOP Senate candidate Corey Stewart has decried the mob tactics that tried to destroy Kavanaugh. Congressman Peter King, Republican from New York, chasing senators down the hall, running up the stairs of the Capitol. We've been taken aback by how people have reacted to it. We're responding. See, the Republicans are using this stuff on Fox News and on right-wing hate radio, and it's working. They're turning it into ads. The characterization, Visor and Costa write, evokes fear of an unknown and out-of-control mass of people. With its emphasis on the impact on traditional values and white voters, particularly men, it strikes the same notes as earlier Trump-fanned attention to immigrants, MS-13 gang members, and African-American football players protesting police treatment of young black men. See, it's all kind of one fabric. The mob is coming. Who is the mob? Everybody except white men. Right? The mob is those women. It's those African-American football players. It's, you know, this is their shtick. And they say this is a modern incarnation of Richard Nixon talking about the rioting, the 1968 riots at the DNC, which were provoked by the Chicago police, let us remember. That's when Nixon started referring to anti-war protesters as the mob. Leftists, feminists, and academics, celebrities, Michael Avenatti, George Soros, Maxine Waters. This is the mob, they say. And really what it means is that the tax cuts are not stimulating their base, the tax cuts for billionaires. And the Democrats are seriously PO'd. John Weaver, a longtime Republican strategist, said it's aiming to fire up Fox viewers. I'm sure there's some little old lady in Iowa who now keeps her doors locked because she thinks there's going to be some anarchist mob coming through Davenport. He continues, they want to take the freedom to assemble and turn it into a negative, dehumanize and belittle and dismiss the current activism. And they point out this has been months in the making. The Republicans have been planning for this. They were hoping that women would come out in huge numbers. Chuck Grassley, they've encouraged mob rule. Orrin Hatch, a paid mob. Marco Rubio, imagine the coverage on cable news of an angry mob of conservatives stormed the steps of the Supreme Court building. Actually, that happened. It was called the Tea Party, and the media loved it. Mitch McConnell, we stood up to the mob. Trump, the radical Democrats have turned into an angry mob. The liberal mob attacking Dave Bratt is coming out of Dave Bratt's most recent ad. This is what the Republicans are running on. That if you have protested, you're not an American citizen exercising his or her First Amendment or their First Amendment right to petition your government for redress of grievance, which we used to think was an all-American value. No, you're a mob. You're part of the mob. So the question, will the mob show up and vote? I was rather shocked this morning to see Jacob Sabaroff, the MSNBC reporter, show up at a university in California and just walk up to a group of about 25 or 30 students, all over 18 college students, and say, how many of you intend to vote? Out of the entire group, one person raised his hand. One. Under 35, half the voting rate of every other group.